Hey everyone, so today I got my friend Alpha again, and today we're gonna be doing another system design interview. It's probably been a while since we did one of these. We did a few, it's probably been a month, but how you feeling with the system design, Alpha? You think you gotten better over the last little bit?
So I got better since the last one we did, but then I haven't done it in a while after that. So we'll see.
Yeah, it might be a little rusty, huh?
We're a little rusty, yeah.
Cool. All right, so the question that we're gonna work on today is we're gonna be designing a hotel reservation system.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I'll let you go ahead and design. Sorry, design a hotel, and I'll let you take the wheel on this, and yeah, just lead.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. All right, so I'm just gonna start out with some requirements, and then you can kind of let me know what we want to be focusing on in particular.
Sounds good.
So I guess so. Yeah, just to clarify, I guess this hotel reservation is this going to be for a hotel, or can this be for like any hotel? Like
Good.
they can search for it.
That's a good question. Let's just say it's like one hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to search for a hotel in that case. We're just gonna have a hotel. They're gonna go in and then okay.
Or
Okay.
sorry, um, think of it like Expedia. Maybe there's 5 or 6 hotels under our website, and
Mm-hmm.
then you could click on the different hotels, and then within the hotels you can book different rooms. And yeah, we shouldn't double book and things like that. But yeah, you figure out the functional requirements.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's gonna be kind of similar to like just like high level trying to combine things. Kind of similar to Ticketmaster, where kind of similar things where we can't double book. Now the only difference between this and Ticketmaster is when you book, like for a Ticketmaster, the ticket like the seat was gone for an event and that's it. For this, it's going to be actually pretty tricky because rooms can get like unbooked and then they need to be available later. So there's actually I feel like a lot of different things you can do here. So I'm just going to try to not take too long here
Yeah,
and make something basic and then you can let me know if we want to agree.
yeah.
All right. So essentially, yeah, really briefly talk about the user experience. Can we just say something as simple as obviously we can make things better, but just like search for a hotel, and then from that hotel we can do some stuff. Like yeah, you can do some better stuff. Like I can search for a date and rooms, and then it'll tell me what hotels are available. We'll say that's like out of scope. We'll just keep it as simple as we can search for a hotel, and then after we search for a hotel, then in that hotel we can do some booking. Is that fine?
Sure. Yeah, that works.
Okay. So we can like yeah, basically display hotels and pick one. Okay, so now when we're at a hotel, then the question is like, how are we gonna book, and like what? So I guess we want to input, keep it once again as simple as possible. So let's just say user inputs some time, some like date. I guess yeah, we'll keep it as simple as when you book, you have to pick like the date, I guess, and then the date you want to check out or something. So you give it some date range, and we list types of rooms available for that date range. So yeah, they'll basically just say like, I want to book, or actually, we can make it even simpler. We can just say like when they want to book the room, and then we can just check if it's available. And then when they can check out, like maybe they can just check out later on or something. We'll have like a checkout thing or like something like that.
Yeah.
So that'll make it even simpler. So user puts some date of check-in and we list types of rooms. Um, and these types of rooms will be like luxury, super luxury, whatever. We don't have to give exact rooms. We'll just give the types that are available.
Sure.
Okay. And then, so user can check in to a room, and then we'll have some other functionality. And yeah, we're not going to talk about how this happens in the UI, but essentially, user can check out of a room. Uh, Yeah, so I think that should cover everything for the functional. Yeah, I mean, we can obviously have things like if there's no room available, do some UI stuff, but we're not going to talk about the UI here. So this is kind of just like what we'll have. So I guess if they input the date of check-in and there are no rooms, we'll just show nothing. We'll just say nothing available. So does that kind of make sense for the functional? Is there anything else you want me to focus on, or is this good?
Okay, so we're able to search for hotels.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at hotels, we can input some dates. Then
Mm-hmm.
when we look into the hotel, we're able to see a list of the types of rooms. Could you explain more what the type of rooms are here?
Yeah. So user can check in to a room. Okay. So basically, so you put in some date, like whatever, say September 15th. I don't know, can't type today. Okay. So and it'll just be like luxury suite, whatever, like normal room, etc. So it'll just have a list of types of rooms that are available for that date, and we can just group it into types of rooms. So something like that, and then they can pick on a room and then check in.
Okay, they should be able to pick across dates, like for a week, up to 2 weeks.
Okay. So then in that case, so for this date of check-in, they could say, okay, so maybe we could say, once again, keeping it as simple as possible. So they could pick the date of check-in and how long they want the room for, I guess.
Yeah, it should be like a selector. It'd be like September 15, like when you're booking flights, September 15 to September 22.
Okay,
So
so
pick
like
a
a
date
like a
range.
date like a date range. Okay, sure. And we list types of rooms. So yeah, so they pick like starting date, ending date, and we show all the rooms that are available for that. So they'll say here like September 15th through September, and we'll keep this simple. So we'll have a date of check-in, but we'll have it kind of limited. So maybe they can check in for like a week or like a month or something. Like we'll have a selector, but maybe we don't support like
Yeah.
every single type of thing. So this will be like day, week, month, or whatever.
Let's just
Something.
say they can just select up to 2 weeks on the date range.
Okay, sure. Date of check-in up to 2 weeks. Okay, yeah. Okay. So they pick some date range, and then we list all the rooms, and then they click on a room, and then it checks in. And then I guess the checkout then will be automatic
Well, check in
because
and check out, like how does that usually work when you're working with a
right.
hotel,
Sorry.
right?
So actually, so if that's the case, we don't need any of these. So basically, they're gonna like order. So I guess so user inputs some date, and then user can confirm the order. And then so the way this will work is they'll pick the room, they'll pick in all their stuff. We'll ask them like, "Are you good with this?" They'll pay, and then they basically have the room now. And check in and check out will just be like at the front desk, so that's going to be like out of scope, I guess. Like the room will just be booked when they make this order. Does that make sense?
Yeah. User can confirm the order. They can put in their credit card and stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and pay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're gonna not support things like early checkout or like
Yeah.
changing,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. Actually checking in person, where we
Yeah.
say they're actually in the room now. All
Like
of that, we'll just keep it like
yeah,
this.
that happens in person usually, right? So, and for the luxury suites, we should have some details of like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pricing and stuff.
So yeah. So let's see. So I guess we can have it here. Okay. So we can have user can click on the room type, get info about it, and place an order. Right. So the way it's going to look is you pick a hotel, you pick a room type, or sorry, you don't pick a room type. You pick the date range you want. You get a list of room types. You click on the room type. It'll say like, here's how much it costs,
Hmm.
and then like whatever, a bunch of info about it, and then you can like confirm your order. Does
Yep.
that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, everything else will be out of scope, and then yeah, so this is going to be the thing. Okay. And the non-functional. So you said we're not going to have like a lot of hotels that our site can support, or are we going to have like, yeah, I guess like for this would change the design a little bit. Functional. this would change the design a little bit depending on like how many hotels we support. Like if you support 5, then the search is super fast. If we support like 1,000,000, then we need to build in some other stuff. So I guess how many roughly hotels can we support?
Let's just say we support. Let's just a small number, maybe like 100 hotels.
Sure.
But what do you think is the most interesting part for this question? For like, what
I
would be the
think the
complicated
interesting
part?
part of this question is more the date range and like keeping the room available other than the number of hotels we support. Like that can kind of apply to everything. That's just like a search through a bunch of items, which is just like the same problem everywhere. So I don't think that part's super relevant for this problem.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Like the
agree.
more interesting part is this user check in and then make sure we can't like double book and make sure we have this like date range, somehow it's booked and so on.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What's the next part?
Yeah. Okay, so then non-functional requirements. Yeah, so we're just gonna say a small amount of rooms, so search is done, or so a small amount of hotels, so hotel search is fast already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then the next part is we want to. So yeah, obviously avoid double booking is the big one here. And then the consistency availability is going to be consistency. Actually, let's think about this one. So yeah, so if a room is like available,
Mm-hmm.
but the user doesn't see it like instantly, that's totally fine. Like whatever, that's not a problem. Like yeah, so like let's say someone checked out and the room's available, but the user clicks and they don't yet see it. Like there's just so many, that's fine. We can kind of like live with that trade-off where we just wait like 2 or 3 seconds for half that room. We're never gonna run into that problem. So we can say consistency, or sorry, availability over consistency, except for the room booking. So room booking needs to be highly consistent. Just so we are not allowed to double book.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, the rest of it is like if we added a new room to our hotel or whatever, and they don't see it right away, or if we added a new hotel to our system, they don't see it right away. Like that's totally fine.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. And honestly, I'm thinking as far as numbers here, so because if we have like 5 hotels, the hotel doesn't have that many people. Our number of users is actually pretty small here. So we can even say like our daily active users is quite small. Like let's say, honestly, it might be like 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever. Like nothing scary. So we shouldn't run into. I mean, maybe we could think about like how we could scale this to some massive like million hotel, billion active user later. But for now, I don't see any problems with like any bottlenecks anywhere else.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So I'm looking at this like double booking, and I think that kind of makes sense for like tickets. Like pretend we're doing a Taylor Swift concert, can't buy the same booking. But for hotels, even for airlines, so like, sometimes they allow like overbooking by like maybe 10% or something. I know for sure
Allow
hotels.
overbooking by 10%. So how would that look like? Like let's say I book. So I pick. So really, what it's gonna look like is I pick the type of room, right? Like I pick like luxury suite,
Mhm.
and then when I get my thing, do I want it to say like here's your actual room number, and then like that's what you're doing, or is it just gonna say like okay, you have this luxury suite from this time, and then we'll give you your actual room like when you come in. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah.
Is it?
So for hotels, right? Usually you just pick a type of room. You don't actually pick a room. And when you
Mm-hmm.
go to the place,
Mm-hmm.
they give you one of the rooms that's available that matches what you wanted. Pretend I wanted a
Okay.
king size bed, or I wanted so it's not like you're buying a specific room, right? You're buying like a
Right.
type of room,
Yeah.
and when you check in, you get that type of room.
Okay. So let's say we have. So when you say overbook by 10%, like how do we calculate that? Like, let's say we have like 10 king size rooms available, so we can let like 11 people book and pay.
We'll let 11 people reserve or 12 people reserve. We have 100.
Uh huh.
We'll let 110 people reserve.
So what's that gonna look like when, let's say, they all show up? Like, or how do we cancel some? Or what's the user
Hmm.
experience there?
Actually, let's just ignore that for now. Let's just
Okay.
say that I mean, we don't really need to. It's not the same thing as Ticketmaster's.
Sure. So yeah. So because you're not getting the room, this will never happen. Okay. So I guess then in that case, what we can say, and this can kind of be like a little out of scope as well. So we can just say, uh, I mean, honestly, thinking about it, like the easiest thing is like, so for a hotel, there's like a check-in and a checkout time, right? Let's call it noon.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess basically, yeah. So they have a check-in and checkout time,
Yep.
and then we'll just say even if we overbooked by little, that's fine. So we can, so overbooking a bit is acceptable.
Yeah. This might be below the line actually, where because yeah, often hotels like overbook on their end because they're
Mhm.
trying to
Make sure they
predict
have all
the
the rooms
yeah
filled.
people like last minute cancellations and no shows and stuff.
Okay. Well, the main thing it's going to impact in our design is then availability is just going to completely prioritize everything
Hmm.
because, like, let's say someone booked and someone else booked at the same time, like, we'll just take them both. It's fine. The only time we will not allow them to book is if the data we're looking at right now says we're full. But if like three people book at the exact same second, we'll just take it all, and we will overbook by a little, but it's fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for thinking through that. I guess yeah. Let's not worry about that now. Let's just figure out
Yeah.
everything
All
else.
right, so
But
let's
yeah.
go through the rest of it. Okay, so the API, or actually the entities here. Okay, so the entity will be like obviously hotel, um, and then so because so we do have to actually give them an exact room, but we also have to have like room types. So we're gonna give them an exact room when they show up. Is that gonna be, I guess, like add a scope or not? Like the exact room we give them? Like, can we just say like we have some count of this type of room and that's what we're storing, and then the exact room we give, we're not really handling that. Like that's gonna be handled more when they go in and like check. Or do we want to handle that as well? I guess
Yeah,
if that
like
makes
we're
sense.
not giving them exact rooms. We're not saying you're getting
Right.
room four,
Okay.
five,
Okay. So
three.
so the exact room will just be out of scope and just be handled when they go to the
Yep.
hotel. Okay. So we'll have hotel. We'll have
Like
let's
at a
see.
high level, we need to think about it like this. Like we just have like 10 king rooms, 10 queen
Right.
rooms, and 5 single rooms.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just have hotel. Then we'll have room. Uh, yeah. I guess for every hotel, we basically just need to have like room number. Honestly, this might even be able to be in one table. Like, yeah, like so the hotel can just have like room types. Like, it can just have a table of like room types. The other way is we could have a separate table for room types. So like the hotel might say, well, like how many or like what are the room types it has. I think for now I'm just gonna keep it honestly as one, and then we'll see if we need to add more. So that hotel can literally just have a table of room types and the count, and that's it. And yeah,
Mm.
okay. Maybe we will have, actually what we probably do need actually is for these like room types. We need to have like descriptions and all that. So maybe we'll have another table for that. So this will be like a rooms table actually, where it'll just have like the room description, the room cost, room whatever we need to show. Okay, I think this is all, and then we'll see if you need to add any more. Okay, so let's look at how we do any like all of these. Okay, so search for hotel, then do some looking. So this is basically just going to be a
So we're pretty much only for there just modeling stuff on the hotel side, right? So is there any other entities that we need to cover?
um. Oh yeah, let's see. Mm, yeah, actually, we probably do need some other stuff. So the room, yeah. So we probably need a user entity actually, because we need to know like is a user in a room. So the rooms will be linked to hotels, and then we also need link this to like users or customers or something, and then that will tell us like is there a person in there, or who is in there, and so on. I don't know if we need anything else. I guess we I mean, we might want to have like orders maybe or something. I don't know if we really need this, but I guess we'll see.
Like,
Yeah.
how would we know when someone booked for a specific date?
When someone booked for a specific date, yeah. So
Yeah.
that would probably be like, let's see.
Where are we storing that? Because if I'm a user, right, maybe I'll book one for a week from now, but I could still book one for a month from now, like a
Oh
week.
yeah, you can book like a bunch. I see.
Technically,
Yeah.
like if I know if I'm going to two trips in LA, one in December and one in February, then go ahead and book it.
Yeah.
Any of these hounds in here?
No.
No?
No.
I think
Okay,
I will.
so 1 second.
Mustafa, wait, system design questions are project breakdowns before coding. Well, we're just gathering functional and non-functional requirements right now.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So, uh, yeah, so essentially, yeah, we do need to figure out like how long a room was booked for. So I'm thinking we do need some kind of like room booking table where anytime a room is booked, we need to like have that duration somehow. And then we need to unbook, right? So that's kind of what you're saying. Like if I book from like the 7th to the 11th, I need to know what's the room. I don't need to know what's the exact room, but I need to know like what hotel is the room in and what it's booked for, so then I can like
Yeah.
modify it after that time is done. Okay,
Well,
so
like,
in
yeah.
yeah,
What
go
I'll say
ahead.
is like for this type of question, the hotel reservation, I think we'll spend a bit more time on the entities section. Cause I think
Right.
modeling this out is a bit trickier than like the average question. I think this one like the
Yeah,
database part. So
that's fair.
yeah, I'm
Okay,
just
so
curious of like how we're gonna handle the actual bookings.
yeah, okay, so let's think about it. So if they make a booking, um, I think what we need to do is yeah. So I don't know if we care about the users in particular. I mean, yeah, because we're not handling like logging in as a user and seeing your rooms. I mean, maybe we want to handle that as well, or like orders or something. But the I think what I'm seeing is we need to have some kind of table of like booked rooms. And so what this would look like is it would have a room ID and like a room type and like the hotel that it belongs to maybe. And then it would need to have like a start of book and end of book. And then because we can just say like, all right, the checkout is at like noon, um, we can just have some kind of job run like every day and then just check this database for the booked rooms. And then when a room is no longer booked, we'll just update like the upper table of like how many rooms are
Mm.
available.
Could you fill out some of the properties there
Yeah.
just to make it clear on what you mean by that?
So yeah, so let's do that. So let's say we have this like booked rooms table. So it'll have an ID, have like a hotel ID. Um, it'll have like a type of room, right? Like let's just say our rooms are like king size, whatever they are. So ID, hotel ID, type of room. Um, then it will have like a start, or actually, I don't even think we care. Well, no, we do care about the start of booking as well, right? Because we can book in advance. We're supporting that, right? Like obviously, we can book like a month in advance.
Yeah, we should have a start and end date essentially of when we booked the room.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this is a little bit different than I thought. Okay, so we'll have start date, end date. Okay. And I mean, we can have like customer or whatever, but that stuff is like not super relevant. So yeah, whatever. Start. So each of these will be um. hmm, Let's see. Yeah, the tricky thing is like, what if I need to know for I need to support like for a particular time range for a particular room type, how many do I have available? Which I think actually this does tell you that. Yeah, I think this does tell you that. But essentially I'm seeing is like we have these like intervals of book times. Okay, so I think it's gonna be something like this. And then when someone tries to like when we check availability for a room type, we're gonna say, okay, in this booked rooms, um, how many rooms are of this type, and then how many rooms in this time frame are. I guess we could do one of two ways. We can literally store every room in here, or and then the rooms would literally just have like room IDs and so on. Maybe that would be better. Yeah, I'm thinking that might be better. Let's try to go with this. Okay, so instead of booked rooms, we'll just have rooms. Um, actually, will that? No, maybe it won't. Yeah, honestly, this part is kind of confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think like for the booked rooms, like do we only want to have a room when it's booked? I think so, and we only want to have yeah. So essentially, this will be one entry per room, or not per room, but per type of room when it's booked. And I think that's going to be the best way to do it. Okay, so what it's going to look like is when we book, we're gonna make one entry here with a start date and an end date and a room type and all these things, and then when we can have a job that runs through this like every time. So we can say this like every time, every day at noon or something. Get these counts because this isn't going to change. Well, actually, it will change when someone places an order as well. So maybe this will be kind of tricky to do, to be honest.
So what's the job doing here? Every day at noon, get the counts of booked
Yeah, I was
rooms.
gonna say like every day at noon we can just get this room availability. But then what if a bunch of people? This needs to be still like reasonably accurate, right? I can't just do this every day at noon. So the other way we could handle this is if we're okay with overbooking, um, is instead of every day at noon, we can just like run this job every like 5 minutes or something. Get counts of rooms. Or do we want to do something else?
Wait, so how are we
Because
modeling the hotels and rooms first?
right, okay. So hotel.
Because yeah, maybe let's think about it from the hotel side, how we're gonna model it, and then after
Okay.
on the user side, like how are we gonna choose from that and actually book it?
Yeah. So for the hotel, it's gonna have like a hotel ID. It's gonna have, let's see, hotel name, whatever, some other info about the hotel, and then we need to map it to yeah. So rooms should probably map the hotel, right? So rooms are gonna map to like the hotel ID, and then yeah, something like that. So then for the rooms, the difficult thing for me to figure out is like you said, like we're not giving an exact room, but maybe it still might be better to still store every room in like the room database or something like that. Um, and then we don't have to give the exact room to the person. Like we can just so for a hotel, let's say it has 200 rooms, we can still put them all in the database, and then we can still book them or not book them. But then maybe we don't give that exact room to the person.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as we just book any room of that type, like that's totally fine. So maybe let's try it that way. Honestly, super not sure of this question.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and one thing too is like we can just have a super naive approach first and then figure out how to optimize it.
right, yeah, I was trying to kind of go with that. Yeah. So essentially, okay. So for the rooms, let's just say it's going to be like room ID, uh, hotel ID, and then the room type, something like this. And then I think we need to store the bookings like separately, essentially, is what I was getting at. So each room in the hotel will have this, and then might have some more stuff, but
Here, maybe like add the quantity.
quantity.
What do
Well,
you
I
think?
was thinking of like, do I add a quantity for the room, or do I just literally make a new one for each?
We'll just have a bunch of different rooms.
Yeah, no, I guess quantity makes sense though. Yeah, I guess quantity makes sense, and then because yeah, maybe let's get rid of the quantity because essentially what I want to do is I want to have a booked room. Have like every booked room should have like a unique room ID, and if I have a quantity, that can't happen. So maybe let's try it this way. So basically what this is going to have now is this will have a ID, it'll have a room ID, so this is like the actual room. And then the type of room doesn't matter because that's going to be in the room already. And then we need to give it a start date and an end date. And yeah, so these rooms can't really have like a booked status or not booked status because we're booking in the future. So that's not going to be that simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially for each of these bookings, we'll have a start date and an end date. And then kind of the tricky part here, and this will be, I guess that will be the naive approach, is whenever we search for how many rooms available, we just literally say like, all right, give me all the rooms from the hotel. And then for all of those rooms, check, is there a booking or not in this range, right? So it'll just be some big join query of like, give me all the rooms in the hotel where the rooms aren't booked in this time frame that you provided.
Yeah.
So that this will be like the naive approach, right?
Yeah.
And I think that covers everything now. So we don't really need orders or users or anything. I think maybe we might need it in the future, but I think this is good. Okay,
So
what are
book
your
rooms
thoughts?
is kind of like the order.
What was that? Sorry.
Like book rooms is kind of like the order. Like what happens when we buy a room? Like
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it'll go in here. It'll go into this booked room.
like
So.
how do I know who this booked room is for when they come and show up?
So I don't know if we're handling that. We could handle that as well. So we could add a, I mean, the easiest thing to do is literally just like, whenever they make a payment, like maybe we'll have some other thing that's outside of this that will just like give them some whatever. We'll have some other separate thing that will have the person and the type of room they booked. So when like we'll give them like an email and whatever, and I don't know if we need to store this here or this is going to be some separate thing, because that's what I was asking. Like when they come and show up, like they give you their info and you give them like a random room.
Yeah. But we should know on our system that they actually booked a room of that specific type.
I see. Okay, so maybe we can have another database then of like user bookings or something, or actually. Yeah, I guess we can just include in here, right? So username or whatever it is, user info, something like that. So this booking for this time and this date will have this user info, and then we can search for that user info, and it will give you the type of room they got, when they booked it for, and so on. And then we're not necessarily gonna give them the exact room they booked, but just one room of that type. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I think that kind of models it. Let's get into like the APIs.
Yeah. Okay, so search for a hotel. So okay, so this one will just be like a get request hotels, and we'll just give it like a query string or something. And then this will just basically search for whatever hotel, and it will display a list of hotels. So this will return, I guess, like a partial hotel array or something. Or, yeah, whatever, just say hotel array. Some info about the hotel that they want. Okay. Let's see. Do some booking. So they can click on a hotel. So we need to get like a specific hotel. So get specific hotel. So this will be get hotels with an ID, or hotel ID. And this will return the like full hotel info for that hotel. Okay. Let's see. They can input a date. Okay. So user can get rooms for a hotel. So get rooms for a hotel for some date range. So this will be get rooms, and the rooms will have or I guess it'll be more like hotels ID rooms, and then this will be another query thing. So we'll be able to say start date and end date. Okay, so and this will return a list of types of rooms. So rooms array or something like that. Okay, so now the interesting part is the booking. So they can click, or I guess get info on particular. So another one, type of room, get, yeah, and this will be all that. Guess, or yeah, I guess we can just say, actually, I don't think you need this part. Or maybe you do. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so same kind of thing now. Actually, this won't need to have, so it'll be like rooms. This will just return like a room, and then they can see the room info, and then we can actually like book the room. Okay. So so when we book the room, we're just gonna say like post booked rooms maybe. And then we're gonna say in this body, so this will be like the room ID, or yeah, the room ID. So like essentially our booking will just find one of these exact rooms and book it. So it'll be room ID, and then let's see. Oh yeah, the start date and end date. So start date, end date, and then some user info. Okay. So something like this, and then this will return like a new booking ID essentially. So this booked rooms is basically going to be like bookings. Okay. So I think that should cover everything we need there. Let me know if I'm missing anything.
So you're given a room ID, a start date, end date, and then the user info.
Yeah.
Okay, let me think. Yeah, okay, let's continue.
Yeah, so in our system, we are giving them an exact room, but in reality, we won't give them that exact room. We'll give them any room of that type, and it'll be the same. Okay. Then.
So what's user info here? It's just a JSON?
Like username, user last name, like that kind of stuff. You could alternatively do the same thing that I always screw up in, is if you have some sensitive user info, you can have that in like a JWT. And then you won't store this in just like the post request. Like if you don't want this info to be like stolen.
Yeah.
Like yeah. So I guess there's like different ways you can do it. But yeah, so let's just actually draw out kind of what this will work, or how this will work, and then we can talk about, I guess, the problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'll have a client. Wait, why is this? Okay. I don't know. All right. So I'll have a client here. Small. API gateway. Okay. So we need to try to handle all these function requirements in the simplest way we can do that. So let's see. So search for hotel, and do some booking. So we'll have some like search service that will let us search for things, like just basic search request type of stuff. Search service. So it'll give us like rooms. It'll give us hotels, that kind of stuff. All right. And that will go here. And then we'll have a DB. I think SQL should be fine for this one because there's a lot of like relationships. So SQL DB, Postgres or something. Okay. And yeah, I think these things change, or it can change a lot. So SQL is pretty good, but also realistically with our scale, like we can use whatever. Okay. So if they try to search for a hotel and do some booking, what's that going to look like? So they're just going to make a GET request to a search service, and then we're going to return the hotels to them. So that one's pretty easy. And then user input, some date, all that same kind of, like our search service will handle all these like GET requests of rooms or hotel or whatever they want there. And then the other thing is we need to place an order. So we'll have a separate service.
Okay, so what if I search for? I guess what if I search for like a specific date and there's no rooms available? Well, there's only like queens available. Like how are you gonna? Can we walk through that flow of actually asking for what's available for a specific hotel for a specific date range and just
Yeah.
walk that? Yeah.
So I guess we can show this in like a yeah. So what's gonna happen first is we're gonna search for a hotel, right? So we're gonna get hotels, get them all. We're gonna click on a hotel. When we click on a hotel, I guess we can show a quick little yeah. So we'll have essentially. I mean, this is more client, but yeah. So this is the hotels. Then when you click on a hotel, you're gonna get the hotel info, and so this will be like hotels. And then when you click on a hotel, you're gonna get the hotel info. And then in the hotel info, you're going to have some string of like, I want a room in some date range. And then we're going to present them back with a list of available room types for that date range. So if there are none available, we'll just say like there's nothing available, pick something else. Right? So basically the flow would be they get the hotels, they click on a hotel, then they make another request to our search service for their query. So this is going to be like, so we're going to have get hotels up here, hotels for hotel, and then get room as well, and it'll be the same exact flow. It'll call it the exact same service. And then we're going to get, or this will be get rooms. And schema wise, like what are we doing schema wise, I guess. So if we take a look, we have to do right now the kind of like the bad implementation is we're basically just gonna say okay, so let's actually think. Okay, so the really bad implementation, I guess, is first is like we're gonna get all the rooms for a hotel for just all the rooms in the hotel period that are available. So we'll have like every type and how many we have. Then we're also gonna search this booked rooms. And in the booked rooms, for their request, it's gonna give us like how many of each type of room is booked. So we'll have I can write this.
Yeah.
Like
Write it down so I could verify
like,
the. Let's talk about
so,
how the query would actually happen.
Right. So we're basically gonna say like select all rooms from hotel by type. Right. So this will have like king 20, queen 10, whatever it is. Then the next part we have to do is select all rooms from booked rooms in the range. And so this might have like king 5, queen 10, and so on. And then we just make a difference, right? So we just say like available minus booked is the results, and then we just show that to the user.
Select all rooms from hotel by type. So we're querying hotel.
We're querying rooms. So like select all rooms from rooms where hotel ID is whatever the hotel they're at.
Okay, so we're gonna get a list of like, okay, we have kings and queens in this hotel.
Yeah.
And then
we're gonna go through our booked rooms and we're gonna say select all rooms from booked rooms where room ID is. I guess do we even need? I'm trying to think. Do we need a room ID at all? Maybe we don't. Yeah, I think maybe we can change this to hotel ID actually. And then we can also have the room type. So, and then it'll look like this. Okay. So what this is going to do is select all rooms from booked rooms where hotel ID is whatever hotel ID they're looking at. And then it's going to also give us another list of like the same kind of thing, right? And we just do a difference. And then that's what the availability is.
Okay, for finding the book rooms, it's like, where are we passing in the date range here?
Oh yeah, so this will be like where we're given, I guess, we want to think like it's basically going to be like where start date is, let's see. So if they give us two values like a start and an end, so start date has to be or yeah, I guess. So we have this like interval, and we're trying to basically see if these intervals overlap. Yeah, it's basically just like an is interval overlapping type of thing. So start date has to be I guess less than or equal to end or something. And yeah. And end date, or is it or? Let's see. Trying to think of like, yeah, I guess this is like literally like a merge interval, right? So um I'm not exactly 100% sure like how the query would look like, but I guess doing like a drawing of it is like, here's what they booked and here's what we have, and we just have to see like, is there an overlap here? And it can overlap in different ways. It can overlap like here, or like this way, or like this way. So I'd probably have to think about like what exactly I'd write in the where to make sure this overlaps. But essentially, we're going to be taking their inputs and comparing it to like our our info for the booked rooms. So I'd have to think about exactly like what the where would look like to get all of these, but that's kind of how it would look like. Does that make sense? Like we're just gonna make some where we're gonna check for the overlap.
Yeah. Well, the room that, like, pretend they want to book a room for 5 days, right? It needs to be available on every single day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So this is gonna be like what they wanted. This is the date range they wanted, and then this is the date range the room is booked.
Hmm.
Room is booked. And so we just need to make a SQL query where we check for the overlap between, like, this is basically like two intervals, right?
Hmm.
So the only way they can book is if these don't overlap at all, because it needs to be available every single day. So you just need to make some where query where I would have to think about it for a while, and that's probably gonna take a while.
Hmm.
So we'd have to make some where query where these two don't overlap. And so we have 4 points, right? The start and the end for the query, and then the start and the end that we have in the DB. And then this is just going to be like, yeah, probably like a bunch of wheres essentially, where you have to just check for a bunch of these things.
Hmm.
And then yeah, then it will be available every single day as long as these don't overlap, right? If this is over
Okay.
here, this is always available. This is over here, and whatever, so on.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Okay. Assuming that we're able to figure out like the rooms, right, that are available.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen next?
Yeah. So what would happen next is we would be able to send them how many are available, right? So we'd send them this diff of whatever's available. And then they can click on a room, and then this is when they do the book. So in the booking service, so I guess there's a couple things here. So I think this part might be like Ticketmaster, where well actually, so yeah. So how do we want to handle this? Because we're allowed to have yeah, it'd be easier than Ticketmaster, honestly. So here in this booking service, we can just connect them to like a third-party provider, third-party payment, Stripe here or something. And in the booking service, whenever they want to book, we just connect them to a third-party payment. When that's done, then we'll actually add this entry. If it's not, because this isn't like Ticketmaster, like they don't like reserve a room, right? So if I click buy a room and then I get sent to Stripe and then I just don't do anything for like a day, it doesn't really matter, right? I'm not like reserving a room or anything. It's literally just going to be like first come first serve. And we're letting them overbook. So I think letting them overbook solves a lot of problems. Where if a bunch of people want to book at the same time, we'll just let them. So the simplest thing is literally just go to the booking service, connect to a third-party provider. When that third-party provider says it's successful, then we'll make an entry in the database, and then we'll just return like congratulations, you got the room. So this will add a new booking to the DB table.
Nice.
Okay, and I think this would actually work for everything. It would honestly be like the worst thing I could think of, but it does work. Yeah, the problem is every time they book, like we're doing like this huge
Yeah.
table lookup for one and the other, and yeah, but
Yeah.
this would be like for a small, honestly, for a small amount of customers, for a small amount of hotels, like this would just work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we're at 50 minutes, so yeah, curious on your thoughts on the interview. Like how did it
Yeah,
go
so
for you?
definitely this one. So I will say, so first of all, I am just kind of like tired and stuff from doing my AI stuff, so I definitely could have done better. I will actually say, so I actually got asked something like this for Tesla a while ago,
Hmm.
and it was literally for like a data role. It was yeah, so and the whole thing was just DB design
Yeah.
because I think that's kind of like the tricky part of this question. Like it's not like that is basically all of it, and I
Yeah.
think that's something I'm not like the best in.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like thinking about it more, like most system design questions, you can just do whatever for the DB,
Yeah.
but this question can literally just be like design a DB to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do definitely think I could have done a lot better there, and then also thinking about yeah, like the best way to do all these things because like this thing I came up with is probably like not very good, and I took a very long time on this, so I think this is probably like one of my worst system design ones. So definitely there's a lot to improve, but I did make a working design sort of.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think definitely there's a lot to improve on. And also, yeah, because I haven't really done system design that's like super DB design,
Yeah.
definitely there's a lot that I can improve on.
Nice. Yeah. I think that's why I decided to ask you because like we done infrastructure ones, product ones, front end ones. So I was like, this one is more specific. This one, the most interesting part is literally modeling the hotel and the rooms, and then how people actually book the rooms, and how we
Mm-hmm.
actually find out what rooms are available. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the complicated part. And Farzan's mentioning like contention, like figuring out double bookings and stuff, but I think that's like the step. Like we'll get there afterwards. I think if we need to figure out how to actually book the rooms first.
Right.
But let's see. I think
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
curious what would be like the better answer because I definitely think there's a lot to improve upon here.
There's like the ones that I read online are where they just store the room types. They're not actually like because like how I seen candidates go for look at this one too is like they treat it like Ticketmaster where you're trying to buy a specific room,
Right.
right? But hotels don't really operate like that. They just have like a ton of like a list of different rooms that are available,
Mm-hmm.
and then you book. You just look up it. You just look up like the queens that are available from like 15 to 17, like a date range.
Yeah, so I thought of that, but then I think there's probably just a better way to handle the booking. So if you do that, like if I do have a room ID and like a room type and I just have like a count, then how do you handle a booking, I guess? Or how do you handle returning the right amount or like that?
Hmm.
Like basically this booked rooms thing, how do you handle that like
Yeah,
better?
I mean, yeah, it's a. I, I could show you some links. It's been a while since I did as well. Cause like there's other ways to do it as well. Like the way I first thought about it was like okay, if I was really gonna treat it like Ticketmaster for each day, I'll build out the rooms, right, as actual entries in some like
Yeah.
room database. Like this room is available for like X days and stuff. But I don't know. This one's tricky. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just talk about everything. Let me just like walk through quickly about some of the notes.
Okay.
I think for the functional requirements, um, yeah, I think for this question you weren't as familiar with the hotel reservations, so you had some help like figuring out what exactly were going to be in the functional requirements here. But I think
Yeah,
that's
I
yeah,
also think this one's kind of like a little bit abstract. Like you can go in a bunch of different ways here,
yeah.
and it kind of depends on what you prefer.
Mm. Nothing really wrong with the non-functional requirements. I think yeah, mostly the stuff was related to the entities. So I think
Mm-hmm.
at the start you only modeled the entities on the hotel side. So you're like, okay, we're gonna have hotels and rooms, but you
Mm-hmm.
didn't model anything related to how are people actually gonna book it. I think a users table would be like useful here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. Yeah, I think just modeling out the data. Um, let's see, having trouble a bit ironing out the database. can probably iron out modeling the. Yeah, I think you're going a bit all over the place when it came to like modeling the data. You're like, okay, let me model the hotel, then okay, let me model bookings. I think like having a more structured approach, be like, okay, we're gonna model everything on the database or the hotel side, and then after we're gonna model how we're actually gonna like once we know how everything's modeled on the hotel side, we can model like people actually booking those rooms. And I think
Yeah.
your initial approach was you're trying to get it optimal, but yeah, I think you eventually went for a more naive approach, which I think
Uh-huh.
makes sense for this one, and we could figure out ways to like optimize it with like caching and things like that. But I think yeah, thinking of a naive approach first of just like straight like tons of queries, inefficient queries, and then um like what's a way to optimize the naive approach? Maybe add some indexes to make the room lookups faster, and then what's the way we can optimize that even further, like caching and stuff like that. So I think
Hmm.
even coming up with some naive approaches and just mentioning that would be helpful because I it didn't sound like you had an approach for a while.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and if you were saying in the chat like the contention and all that stuff, it's like, I mean, you could, but that's just literally Ticketmaster, so it's kind of like I already know how to do that one. So yeah, you could add the two people same time thing, like that's whatever. Like that doesn't make like I honestly think yeah, the overbooking, like saying it's fine and just yeah, like the unique part to this question is the yeah the database and like how to actually get all the booked rooms quickly, not the
Yeah,
handling overbooking because you could do that in like everything, right? Same thing with like where you ask like how many hotels can we handle for the search? And it's like
yeah,
yeah, okay, if we have a million hotels and we have a search, we can add like a search feature, but that's everywhere, so that's not
yeah,
really that's not like unique to this problem.
yeah. And like the scale of the scale of a concert is way different than the scale of a hotel. You're not gonna have 15,000 people trying to book into a hotel. Or
Yeah,
like you only
yeah,
have
that too.
certain like even the naive approach you could just have transactions that lock it and then yeah do like optimistic or pessimistic or optimistic locking afterwards like there's multiple
Yeah,
ways
yeah,
to
yeah.
handle that but
I
like
mean,
yeah
you could argue like if there's some event by some hotel, maybe they'll get some traffic, but yeah, yeah, it's not the same. Like when an event comes out, like it can be sold out in like a minute. That's never gonna happen in a hotel.
yeah
So
yeah but
yeah,
then overall like yeah I think the database side just would just need to just look up the different ways to do this. There's tons of different ways. There's no right answers. So many people done it different ways.
hmm
I don't really know the answer to. I just wanted to see where, like, if you were able to figure out some answer and if it made sense. But I don't think
hmm
the current one right now still probably has some flaws in it.
hmm
But other than that, I think the APIs you're really good with. You have good REST principles. You know how
hmm
to specify the resources and the query parameters. You know how to use that well.
hmm
Um, I had like one comment about the user info. So like passing that in through here. It's like I mean you could like spoof someone, kind of like pretend you're book on behalf of someone. So it's sometimes that's
Oh,
usually
I
handled in the
see.
back end. So it's like they have a session ID and then after they book, we don't really pass it in, maybe just a session ID, and then we pull down the data, like their email and stuff on the back end and then just like add that to the row.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. Have a session or a jot or something to even just like the user ID and a jot, right? Same thing. And then we can look up their info on the back end.
yeah. But yeah, I
Okay,
think
makes sense.
on the high level design you mentioned like the search service a bit.
Hmm.
Um so I wasn't sure if you're talking about searching for hotels because I think searching for hotels is not that important. But I think searching for the rooms is the more important thing, like rooms for a
Right.
hotel. So I would just say, yeah, differentiate that a little bit, and yeah, just
Hmm.
get into like for when you're working on system design, like think about it for a second, and think about what would be the most interesting part of the problem, right? So for example, when someone asks you Ticketmaster, right?
Hmm.
You start you know that it's gonna be like the contention and like popular events for
Hmm.
tickets and not double booking, right? When someone asks you lead code, it's like okay, making sure it's run safely. Like you like
Yeah.
the you are you need to think about the problem and what's the important like what's the more important part of the problem and get to that faster. Because like if
Hmm.
you talk about some of the other stuff that's not really specific for this question, it might not get like what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes. I mean, I think I did some of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
like the search or some other stuff. But yeah, it makes sense. I kind of identified what makes this problem unique and then focus on that, those things.
Yeah, because usually when they ask you some specific problem, they're eventually they want to get to a specific, they want to test a specific thing. So if I'm like, I want you to design a leaderboard, right? They want to see how you're gonna like handle like a real time leaderboard that needs to be sorted. Right? Like
Yeah.
what date, like that's a bit more data structure heavy and stuff. This one, I think if you thought about it, you'd be like, okay, maybe the data modeling is definitely, because usually like when you're working on a project, right? Like usually you try to identify what's gonna be the bottlenecks first and think through that first.
Right.
So yeah. Otherwise, no. I think yeah. Definitely, you need to work a little bit on the entities and data modeling part. And there's a ton of. This is a pretty popular question. This hotel reservation.
Yeah, and I never got asked anything super DB. Like I said, I think this would be a good one for. Yeah, I think that Tesla thing I got interviewed for is like an inbound for like a data role, and I mean I don't do like I'm not like a data engineer,
Mm.
so makes a lot of sense that they. I don't even think. Yeah, I don't think they even said systems design. They're literally like, let's just talk about how we'd set up like the database for
Yeah.
this, and that was the whole thing.
Mm.
So, and that was like 40 minutes. So, it makes sense that if you do get asked this, that they might say like, all right, we're going to spend like a lot of time in this section.
Yeah.
Because I think that does make it a lot better. Like if you can set up the database well and like indexing and stuff, then that's basically the problem, right? So,
Yeah, and then you could worry about contention. All that stuff is like
yeah, that stuff is like everywhere, so that's not relevant. Yeah, cool.
like those are like horizontal concerns across other ones.
Yeah, that's everywhere. All right, okay.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Alpha. We'll run this again soon. I'll message you. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, see ya.
All right. Catch you.